Hello, this is Steve from Beaute's Leatherworks, and today's project is, well, today's projects are, it's Louis Vuitton day today. We've got tons of bags that I've backlogged that I got to get done. Some of them are minor jobs, some of them are little major jobs. This one is a strap post, needs replacing. This was a $180 job. This one's a new zipper. I'm sorry, this one's a new lining. This was, I think, a new zipper also, $360 for this one. This one's a post also here. This is $180 also. This one is, we're going to replace the piping on this one. This was $435. This one's replacing the zipper, $220. Now, some of them are older, vintage ones. Some of them that need, they're not that old. This one needs a new zipper. This is $220. Now, this one, the zipper had been done, but not very well, unfortunately. I mean, if you guys can see how small stitches are right here, well, it should match the original size stitches there. So we're not going to do much on this one. We're going to basically just tidy it up a little bit, add a couple of small stitches here and there, and then put the slider back on. This one is $140. This one, I think this was just cleaning and conditioning and touching up some dies around the corners. Let's see, this one here. Okay, this one's just going to be, the stitching came loose and the rivet popped out. This is a $60 charge. Just a little leather tab right there. We'll try to salvage that rivet. That's the most difficult part at times. This one is just sewing the post on here. I'll clean that up and restitch. It's going to be $60. This big one here, new handles. I think just touch up the dyed leather. This was $600. You get the idea. I mean, there's tons of them to do, and we're gonna have to go through, as much as we can for today, because some of the smaller jobs I'll get done first, since we'll set up the machine. Since it's a yellow thread, we'll try to do all of them at the same time, the ones that have yellow thread on them. So one machine will be set up as a dark brown thread. The other one will be the yellow thread. That way, if you kind of put everything together, similar jobs, you'll get them done faster. Now, I know I've got them in a pile here, right? But you really should, when you're not using your bags, try to stuff them with maybe like newspaper or something, okay? If you're gonna do newspaper, put the newspaper in plastic bags, because sometimes if you have a light color lining on the leather, on the bag, the newspaper print might bleed onto that lining, so be careful with that. So just crumble up some paper, tissue paper, whatever, put it in a little plastic bag, put it in the bags like that. And once I get done with them, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take like a hair dryer, right? Just warm it up a little bit, warm this body up, and stuff these bags with some paper to give it some shape before we give them back to the customer. So don't worry about this all being piled up on top of each other. I can see the comments already. Oh my God, man, you put all the stuff on top of each other. Oh no, that's not how you do it. Please relax, okay? This is how bags come in. When it gets back to the customer, it'll be in much better shape, trust me. All right, so let's get started. All right, so one down. I don't know, about 40 to go. This was the one that needed to be stitched. Okay, it's hand stitched. Sometimes I'll hand stitch if it's a couple of small stitches. Tied the two together, and now I'm going to put the rivet on there. Now I salvaged the rivet, which is difficult to do at times. I'm going to wrap that thread around the rivet. That way when I hammer it down, it'll be nice and secure. It'll never come off. Now, manufacturers, what they'll do is they'll have a this is basically the tool that you hammer the rivet down. See, it's got a little oval top right there, so you'll have a nice curved top. Manufacturers do, it's a machine, they put the bag in and top and bottom will secure the rivet together. The top and bottom will have that curved, so even the back one will be curved, okay? But unfortunately, I don't have that anvil. I do have an anvil, though. You know what? This is an anvil, small anvil with that curved, okay? But this is a larger one. If I had a small one exact that same size, it'll probably make the same shape. But let's try it anyway. I think it's better than nothing. Definitely that we can make it. We can make a little similar to what it was. Might not be exact, but hey, you know what? That'll be the best that I can do, and then it'll be similar to what it was. Not too bad. It's not as curved as it should be on the bottom, but it's okay. Better than what it was again. Now it's nice and secure. It still looks original. Same rivet. Same color stitching. Same spacing. Okay. So one down. All right, let's continue. Now I'm not going to show every job, you know, but because I'll be here all week trying to do that if that's the case. Oh, you guys will love that probably with all these videos, each one 4 hours long. No, that ain't gonna happen. So we took the D-ring off here, and then to slide this piece right off, because I've got to access. I've got to access that slider right there to remove it. So we're gonna unstitch that, take the slider off, put a new one on. This was the one that was done previously, and unfortunately not very well. But you know, whatever. Maybe it's to their best capabilities of doing a repair, but I think that unfortunately it's done. I mean, I could take it all apart and redo it over, but that's up to the customer what they want to spend. Because if I had to do that, I'd literally have to take the zipper off and clean all the stitches and start all over again. And if their budget doesn't call for that, then well, I mean, you know, I can only do so much. I do plenty of work that is more than what I promise anyway. I mean, look at this. It's not even stitched in the same hole. I mean, how can you do that? You're going through all this trouble of doing something like this. You have the hole there already. Why don't you just follow that pattern and be done with it? I don't understand the way some of these guys repair bags or repair anything of that matter. I mean, you have that already. You have the holes there. You went through the one hole or two hole. Why don't you just complete it and make it the way it's supposed to be? I just shake my head sometimes at this, you know, these people. Now, I don't have to take this end apart because this is the only end is the slider is this side, right? But you've got some, you know, stitches here that are coming loose, and it's, oh, anyway. Okay, so you understand what I'm talking about. I think they had the right idea, but they just didn't implement that very cleanly. Just not good. I mean, look at that. I mean, look at that. Look how small those holes are, those stitches, compared to what it's supposed to be. There. Okay. It is what it is. All right, let's continue. This is a zipper stop, right? That's what stops from the zipper from going off track. It wasn't there before. So it's a good idea, even though if that's not going to be visible underneath that strap, you got to make sure that when you unzip it, the zipper has a place where it stops so it doesn't get pushed in further and it'll come off track. Then you got to undo everything to get to that spot. So just put a little zipper stop there and it'll stop the slider from going all the way off track. Let's continue. Now this is Bick 4 I'm using. It's just a conditioner. Some of this patinaed leather, you can't really, I mean, you can bring back them a little bit as far as color is concerned, maybe with some dyes. But at times, we just kind of moisturize it and just kind of add a little bit of conditioner to the leather. Now, most of the time, it does a better job structurally than it does visually, okay? The conditioner you're adding is not changing the way, well, it's going to change the way it looks, but it's not going to make it look new, okay? Because it's patinaed already and you can't really bring that back too much. And this is just kind of structurally adding some moisturizer to the leather, adding a little bit of life to it, which some of these older patinaed bags really need, you know. It's leather, of course, and it's, even though it comes from a dead animal, it's a living product that needs to be conditioned and moisturized, and therefore to make it last as long as possible. Now, on some of the newer ones, you got to be careful because at times, you know, at times it might darken that up a little bit. Some people usually, you know, take care of their bags to a point where it just sits on the shelf to look good, which is fine. It's to each his own. On the handles, especially when it gets oily from our skins, you can try using like baby wipes to wipe it down. Sometimes that helps. And there are products, water repellent sprays that you can spray and to kind of protect the surface. But you got to be careful again. Always try on a small spot. Whatever product you're using, test an area first. And don't rush it. Just take your time, let it dry, and see if it works out. If it does, then you do the whole, you do the whole bag. Well, if it doesn't, at least you didn't ruin anything. It's just an area that's not very visible. Okay. All right, so we're almost done with this one. All right, we're gonna put these back in, stitch them on there, put the D-rings on, and buff the bag. And a couple of areas here that it's got a little bit of white marks. You can try using a little bit of rubbing alcohol with a little Q-tip to kind of rub against that. Most of the time, the friction marks will come off. Okay, let's continue. All right. 2 down, 1,000 to go. Anyway, this is the Speedy bag, right? We're going to put a new zipper on, and then the corners are basically shot. So what we're going to do, we're going to trim that 1/4 of an inch off. And once reassembled, it'll make the bag a little bit smaller. Not much, but a little bit smaller. Same time, we're going to put a new zipper on. The piping is in good shape, okay? So what I did was basically I put a little bit of dye around the edges. I use this, can't remember what number this is. This is the wrong lid. It says Scarlet on there. I think this is mahogany if I'm not mistaken. Just a little bit, not too much. Remember, this is acrylic dye. You don't want to cake it on there. You get a little Q-tip, take off all the hairs that's on there. Thanks to Zeus. He's not here today, by the way. So take a little bit of dye, just touch it up a little bit. Make sure that you kind of blend that, if you have to mix and match, to blend in with that color. Now, these bags are made by the French company. If I'm not mistaken, they were around in the 70s. It was a licensed manufacturer that made these bags in the United States. So you're going to have the type of leather that's been dyed. This is not vachetta leather, okay? So that's why we can add a little bit of color back to it to make, you know, to make it look like very similar to that. And these don't have the yellow stitching. These have like the beige or off-white stitching on there. So it doesn't look like the traditional gold stitches that's supposed to be on there. Okay, so we took this one apart. I restitched the piping back on so it doesn't move when I get to stitch this piece to the body of it. Now, you see the white stitches there? So when you go ahead, you need to restitch it back. This is how you have to restitch it, inside out. So when you bring these two together, you follow that white stitch right there, and you're stitching on top, and then you'll have the beautiful, nice piping that it should be when it gets done. Okay, that's your that light color stitch is your guide basically. All right, so again, I can't show you all the details, but this is the third one we're working on. All right, let's continue. So I use these X-Acto knives. I think they're called, oh, carpet knives, not X-Acto knives, but you know, they're changeable blades. Something like from Home Depot or whatever, the hardware stores. But I don't throw them away when they get dull. I've got the little sharpening stone here. Just give it a little bit of a... And not as good as new, obviously, but you know what? It does the trick. Just makes the life of the blade a little bit longer. You've got a cover in here. You guys see that? This piece right here, it's on the inside. That's just basically to hide the details. Gives it like a finished look. If that wasn't there, you'd have the raw edges of the two materials coming together. All right, let's continue. So the side tab right here is come unstitched, obviously. So before we sew the piping back on, we need to restitch that. So this is just, the old stitches are holding the piping on to the body of, side body of the bag, right? We don't want to completely remove everything because it would be a little bit harder to restitch it. So what I'm going to do is basically just move this out of the way. Okay, and we're going to restitch that piece down. Then we're going to go ahead and stitch the piping all the way around in its exact same spot that it originally is. Then we can remove some of the old thread that is holding on the piping to the side. That's the old thread right there. The thread color that I'm using, it's called Pebble Beige, which is pretty close to what the original one is. I'm sure you could use some sort of a beige. It doesn't have to be this Pebble Beige. Now it's important to get the stitch width right so you can go back in the same holes as the original thread. Okay. Just like that. I think I got it all the holes. Yep, looks like it. Now we get to stitch the piping on. Piping back on, I should say. Now we already have the holes there, right? We're just kind of following that pattern. Of course, it would sew better if the bobbin thread didn't run out. Hey! Goodness, man. You know, sometimes never mind. Never you mind. Alright. So there's a proper way to fill the bobbin. I choose to do the ghetto way, which is this way here. Oh, I forgot to say, loud noise. Sorry. See, you got to be careful of that. If it catches the bobbin, or not the bobbin, the bobbin case, it will kind of wrap it around there. So be careful when you're doing a ghetto style. I'm sure I'm going to hear somebody's comment now. Hey man, that's not nice. You're calling it the ghetto. Relax. More things to worry about in this world. Alright. Voila. And she is it. Put this thread back on the needle. Through the needle. Pick up the bobbin thread. Close the cover. And back to the stitching we go. Okie dokie. I'm moving my repair workshop around a little bit. This area is the front of the shop, where I still have to move some of the equipment, hand tools and stuff like that. I'll show you in a second what it looks like. Let me finish this real quick. Piping's on. Alright, separate the front to my workshop here. This is going to be my new workbench. Yes, it's nice and clean, and I get to look outside when I'm working. So I was just sitting there stitching my sewing machines. That wall there will come down, and then there'll be complete room all the way there. And here on this area here, we'll have some shelving. I can put all of my merchandise, not merchandise, but rivets and snaps and so forth like that. All right, let's continue. Alrighty. Number 3 is finished. New zipper. Cut this much off the bag on each side. It's not too bad. I mean, you can't, there's no way you could tell that it was cut off, you know? We really didn't have much of a choice. Once those corners are worn out like that, this is one of the options to do. So, this is a little bent right here. I'm gonna have to straighten that out. No worries, minor details. All right, those pieces on the insides are in there, the covers for the edges. I think it turned out pretty good. Number 3 done. All right, off to the next one. Let's continue. Let's continue. All right, next. This one, we're going to replace the zipper. This has been replaced before. I want to see if I can find a metal zipper like I used to have. There's some glue residue everywhere around the edges. right around here. Looks like it was just left over there. I'm going to clean that up. Now, one side of the zipper has this piece on here. This is seeing its better days, unfortunately. So I'm going to cut a new piece of that. Luckily, I've salvaged some bags in the past, so I can pretty much duplicate that piece right there. We'll cut a new piece out and then we'll add that to the zipper. All right, let's continue. All right, another one done. Nice zipper. Now, I know this isn't the original pull, but unfortunately, this is all I could find that would make it work. Put a new piece in the back there. This was the old zipper. That was the piece. So one more finished. Turned out pretty good. I think she'll be happy. All right, let's continue. All right, so this is a fairly simple one. She's got a little hole in the lining right there. I'm gonna open the lining, go in the back, put a bigger piece of material, glue everything back together and restitch it, and we're done. All right, let's continue. All right, another one done. Fairly easy job. I put a small triangle at the end right there to kind of reinforce that. There's a big piece of fabric. This is a nylon fabric. That's not going anywhere, so that should hold her very well. All right, another one done. Next, this particular one, again, the corners are worn out, okay? So the piping seems to be in pretty good shape. We're gonna do very similar to the Speedy bag. We're gonna unstitch the bottom. We're gonna re-dye the piping, cut a little bit off, and then basically restitch it again. Now, you see how the piping is a little further away from the bottom piping, about a ½ inch difference. So once we cut that off, we've got to move that piping up a little bit, so when it gets done, it'll look just like that. All right, let's continue. Let's continue? Yes, let's continue. All right, so before I take things apart, I usually put some guide marks. Okay? And this side has 3, this side has 2. So if you put 3 on that side, you're gonna kind of mix things up. Doesn't really matter, I think, if this guy's over here, but the problem is that the pattern, what you have, you want it to kind of be the same when you get done. You don't want to screw that up. If this didn't have a pattern, I think it would have been okay if you stitch this the other way, but you know what? Why do that when you can basically have a pattern that it came with, just duplicate it the same way. All right. Sometimes what they'll do, some manufacturers will do, is that they'll sew one side of the piping, actually they'll stitch the piping on one side of the bag, like either the bottom or the body of it, right? So if we're cutting the length of this and the piping is stitched onto that side first, well, you got to take everything apart. Sometimes we'll get lucky if we're just, you know, working on the body of it, the piping will stay to the bottom. That way you don't have to stitch that again. But unfortunately on this one, it looks like they stitched it first to the body of it. Actually, yeah, we're gonna have to take everything apart. It's okay, just a little bit, just one more step. Gotta do, that's all, no big deal. I'm showing you guys this because everybody freaks out every time I cut into a bag. So freak out all you want. Anyway, for those who are interested, I am feeling much, much better. I went to the doctor and I don't think they really diagnosed what I had, but they gave me some steroid pills. Some other pills to kind of loosen up the congestion in my chest. They took x-rays and x-rays were clear. and it's been about 4 days now. I've been taking the medication, and I'm feeling 100% better than what I did. So I appreciate all your concerns. It was a rough one, man. It was like a month and a week that I was coughing. My lower back was starting to hurt. My like kidneys were just kind of stressing out from coughing so much. Couldn't sleep much at night. And luckily, everything is okay. I mean, I'm still messed up in the head, but, you know, can't help that. But I still loves meat. All right, there's your piping right there. Unfortunately, we got to stitch this back on. It's okay. It'll give me a chance to put some dye on it without touching the fabric, you know? So you got to be careful when you're stitching this. You can't pull this. Sometimes if you pull this too much, then it gets bigger than the bottom piece, but you don't want that. Now we get to clean up all the thread, and then just cut this off just a little bit. Now sometimes when I shorten the distance of the bag, the height, I usually shorten the lining too. But we're literally taking it not even a quarter of an inch, less than a quarter of an inch. So I'm going to leave that lining alone. I think it'll be okay. It's just a matter of literally just a little less than a quarter of an inch. About like that. Here, let me cut a little bit more to show you guys. Something like that. Okay, it's not too bad. All right, let's continue. All right, so we stitched the piping on exactly where it was. Now what we're going to do, you see the yellow guide marks, right? Now I'm going to be stitching it this way because I have that stitch, the piping stitch, as my guideline to follow. It'll be exactly right on the edge of the piping, okay? But I can't see the yellow marks from the top here, so basically what I'm going to do, just transfer it on the opposite side. Okay. You guys remember there's only 2 marks on one side and 3 marks on the other, so you'll know exactly where to put do the bag. Turn this bag inside out like that. Oh, I forgot to stitch the sides. I moved the piping up a little bit, so let's do that right now. Let me move the camera around, see if I can get a better angle for you guys. Make some room over here. Better? Okay. This is just the side piece. This basically just unstitching it and moving the piping up a little bit and restitching it back together. Moved up a little bit, half an inch. Now we stitch it about half an inch from the bottom, and that piping will be exactly how it was before, like original. Once we stitch this on, we can go ahead and sew the bottom, close the lining, and we're done. Now, I know I'm not showing you guys everything, right? I'm showing you a little bit of details of every job That way, that way we can get done. I think I'm going to be here late night tonight because it is what it is. I mean, I got to finish these jobs. They're just kind of eating at me, and I don't like it. Now, we've got the top guide mark and also the yellow on the bag. We're just going to mark those, line those up together, stitch all the way around, turn the bag right side out, close the lining, and we're done. All right, let's continue. All right, we're done with another project. Like it was never there before. Now, I went ahead and added some color to the side pipings and also to the top binding here. It was faded a bit. The handles look pretty good. They don't need any help. I put a little conditioners on them and she's done. All right, so we're done with another project. I don't know what number this is. 5, I think? I can't remember anymore. But I think it turned out pretty good. If you didn't tell anybody that it was done, but you never tell. All right, let's continue. All right, next, we're going to replace the lining in this little, I'm not sure what they call this, cosmetic bag? Makeup bag? Clutch? I don't think it's a clutch. But now you got the sticky stuff right on the label too. I think I can clean that up pretty good, so let's hope that that comes out. Now the zipper seems to be okay. I've got to clean it thoroughly to get all this gunk off of it. Then I'll know how well it works. If it needs a replacement, we're going to have to replace it. If not, we're going to keep the same. All right, let's get started. Voila. These this material that they used to use, I don't know if they still use it or not, but this just literally crumbles, man. It just gets sticky as hell. It's some sort of a fabric with a dye, with like a nylon vinyl coating or something. I'm not sure what they put on there, but over time, it literally this starts deteriorating, and man, it gets sticky, very sticky. I mean, look at this. Oh, it gets everywhere. It's disgusting. Not just Louis Vuitton. I've had Gucci. I've had other brand name bags, designer bags. They use a very similar. Over time, it just kind of disintegrates and falls apart. I mean, it's just a piece of fabric, right? It seems like it's such a shame that I couldn't spend a little bit more money and upgrade that so this would last longer. Now, I don't know how old this is. Again, it's not the point. The point is that they can use something better than what this is to make it last a little bit longer. Even if it doesn't last longer, at least not to fall apart like this. Well, I mean, with all, I guess in their defense, they didn't know if it was going to fall apart like that, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I guess they wouldn't have known that. Something's going to happen 10 years, 15 years, 20 years later. That is just bad, man. Whew. Let's take this name tag off and see if we can clean this up a little bit. I'd like to reuse that. Well, of course I'm going to reuse it. I'd like to make it as clean as possible before I stitch it back on. It's like a glue residue, sticky residue. We're gonna clean that up. We're gonna clean it up. We're gonna make it better. We can do it. Bring it back better, faster, stronger. What movie is that from? Bet you guys can't tell. Come on, think. maybe 80s. I can't, oh my God. A long time ago. Showing my age. Well, I did turn 54 yesterday. People are asking me, well, how old are you, Steve? I'm like, I'm 54. They're like, no way. I'm like, yeah. So from now on, whoever asks me, I'm 45. They don't believe me. All right, cool. I still think like a 19-year-old, though. That's the problem. Okay, cool. This came out pretty good. Let that dry a little bit. I'm using a little bit turpentine to remove that stuff off there. Not bad, not bad. Phew, cool. A little bit there. This is their Centennial Edition, Anniversary Edition, something like that. 86 to 96. So I guess that tells us how old that is, huh? Got a good clue? I wonder how old that is. Okay, not too bad. We'll condition that up a little bit. Where are you? Woohoo! All right, let's continue. All right, so let me show you guys something. With all these cases, right here, where it folds over, it always starts cracking and ripping. And once that starts happening, there's not much you can do with it. Okay? So before we reassemble it, what we're going to do, we're going to take, again, nylon strips and glue them in there to give it some reinforcements. Because over time, I mean, that's just going to fail. And once it fails, you're done. That's it. Since I got it apart, I'm going to put those 4 pieces in the corners there where it bends a lot. Once everything comes together, this will be a lot sturdier than what it was. Cool. It's a minor detail, but you know what? Very important detail, because now it's not going to allow it to flex back like that too much, because that piece will be underneath it reinforcing it. Okay, let's continue. Okay, another one done. This turned out really nice. I like this one. Now the zipper was in great shape. It just was it had a lot of crud in it, so this is all new. Cleaned that up pretty good. Stitched that over. Now, I stitched this over also just to have that thread to be nice and bright. Cleaned the outside exterior as best as I could. Now there's a little bit worn out areas about that pattern. There's not really much you can do about that. But I think it turned out pretty good. I think she'll be very, very happy. This was the same lining that I used on that Gucci bag that I did last week or the week before. I can't remember when it was. It's a beautiful lining. I think it turned out nice. All right, on to the next one. Let's continue. All right, guys, don't forget, anytime you have a question, try not to put it in the comment section. I may not see it. When you're on the main page of Beaute's Leatherworks right here, you click onto About, and it has all my information right there, my email address, shop number, telephone number. Give me a call, or you can email me with some pictures or questions, anything you'd like to ask. I'll be glad to answer it that way. And if you want to ship items in, there's a shipping form right here. Click onto that. Basically, you just fill that out and you mail it in with your item, and I'll contact you as soon as I receive it. All right, let's continue. All right, well, thank you for joining me on this Louis Vuitton repair marathon. You like that name? Kind of corny, but you know, it was a marathon. Man, there was a lot to do, and there's a lot more to do. These are just basically the ones that needed to get done that I've been sitting around for a while, just kind of in my head, and wanted to finish as much as I could. Stay tuned for part 2 because I'm editing that now, and I'll upload it as soon as I can. And please subscribe if you haven't. I'm still learning this all this YouTube behind the scene, because it's so much more to learn on the certain percentage of people who subscribe, who don't, the age limit, not limits, but the age factor, where they're from. I mean, there's so much to learn. So I'm slowly learning as I'm going along. So, but if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so. Give me a thumbs button, share, comment, whatever you want to say. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, stay tuned for part 2.